Hi, my name is Hannah Naylor, and I'm going to share with you my favorite brain part, which is the amygdala. The amygdala has a Greek root. It comes from the Greek word amygdale, which means almond and refers to the almond-like shape. Location. The amygdala is located in the medial temporal lobe in front of the hippocampus. It is a paired structure, which means that it is located in the left and right brain hemispheres. The amygdala is part of the limbic system, along with the hypothalamus, the hippocampus, and the thalamus. Together in the limbic system, they control emotion and memory. Overview. The amygdala is responsible for three main things. Number one, emotion. Emotions influence cognitive processes such as attention, decision making, and are also involved in social behavior. Number two is memory. The amygdala attaches emotions to memory as well as helps in memory formation. Number three, the flight or fight response. The flight or flight response includes bodily responses or facial expressions to situations and experiences happening in an environment. Anatomy. The amygdala is made up of a cluster of neurons. There are two main parts located in the center of the amygdala, which are the basolateral complex and the central nucleus. The basolateral complex includes the lateral, basal, and accessory basal nuclei and is responsible for emotional responses and innately reinforced stimuli such as drugs and alcohol. The lateral nucleus receives input from sensory cortices, and the intercalated masses are a group of inhibitory neurons that flow information from the basolateral complex to the central nucleus. The amygdala plays a big role in memory in one of two ways. The first way being emotional significance. The amygdala connects emotion to memories. The emotional significance wakes up the amygdala, which then results in memory storage. However, that does not mean memories are stored in the amygdala. In this process of storing memories, the amygdala, hippocampus, and neocortex work together to determine how a memory will be retained over time, whether it's a memory that is hard to remember or something that is able to be remembered perfectly. Because of attaching emotions to memories, the amygdala helps us learn from our mistakes and make better decisions in our future. The second way the amygdala is involved in memory is formation. The amygdala works in forming new memories, specifically memories that have fear involved. Researchers are also able to use the amygdala when looking at memory formation, consolidation, and recall. The amygdala research is really big in studies that use punishments to change behavior, such as instrumental learning, because they are able to connect learning with fear. The amygdala is also responsible for mediating emotional learning and behavior. It handles human emotions such as happiness, sadness, excitement, fear, and anxiety. The reason we are able to know that emotions connect to the amygdala is from studying monkeys and observing changes in their emotional, feeding, and sexual behavior. A big way to study the amygdala is through learned emotional behavior. The most common research study for the amygdala is Pavlovian conditioning, which studies emotional learning. Pavlovian conditioning is the relationship between stimulus and reward. For example, a dog associates hearing a bell with receiving a treat. The next common way is instrumental learning. Instrumental learning is behavior based upon consequences. Example, giving a kid candy after they clean their room or taking away toys when the room is not cleaned. A third learned emotional behavior technique is extinction. This is repeatedly using a conditioned stimulus to replace the previous unconditioned stimulus. As an animal learns through any of these processes, the amygdala neurons have a change in response due to conditioned stimuli changing, which shows us the learning process. The instrumental learning process is used a little bit less to study the amygdala, but is still a good way because the amygdala neurons respond positively to reward. After learning, the basolateral complex inputs information into the central nucleus, which then leads to physiological and behavioral responses that relate to emotional responses. For example, feeling fear has an emotional response, which would be freezing up. It also has a behavior response, which would be high blood pressure. The amygdala works with the prefrontal cortex in regulating emotions. The amygdala works to detect threats before the brain can process them, which then leads to the physiological or behavioral response to that threat. The central nucleus is the part that generates the emotional response. In your flight or fight response, the amygdala communicates with the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus then communicates with the autonomic nervous system, which then causes stress hormones to release. When these stress hormones are released, they trigger physiological changes that connect to fear and anxiety. These changes can include a racing heart, sweaty hands, or shortness of breath. Sometimes these hormones are released very quickly that your brain cannot process them, which is why you are able to quickly jump out of the way of an incoming car or have a fast reflex to catch something coming at you. The amygdala is also associated with many neurologic disorders. There's PTSD and PD, which is when the amygdala appears smaller, which causes higher levels of fear and stress. Next, you have addiction. This is the connection between drug and high that is of stimuli and positive reward, which is an amygdala function. Then you have KB, which is caused by brain trauma and it causes lesions in the amygdala, which then causes abnormal emotional responses such as random aggression or lack of fear. The amygdala is also associated with mood disorders such as depression as they have higher levels of amygdala activity, Alzheimer's disease, which affects the hippocampus and the structures connected to it, including the struggle to make new memories and learn new information. And UWD, which is a very rare condition that is caused by lesions in the amygdala and affects the skin, which lacks the ability to recognize fear in others' facial expressions. The end. Thank you.